The time is just gone 6 minutes past 8 as we kick off this morning taking a look at Israel. Now, we know Israel has been looking at normalizing ties with many countries. We know what has happened with Bahrain, with Morocco, with the United Arab Emirates. But the big one, Saudi Arabia, and we know Israel wants to normalize ties with Saudi Arabia. And to understand what some of the motivations behind some of these developments are, and also at the same time looking at the United States of America, their involvement in facilitating these normalization of ties with Israel and some of the Arab countries. We are now going across to be joined by Senior Research Fellow and Director at Afrasid, Ibrahim Thembisa Fakude. Brother Ibrahim, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Yes, this whole issue surrounding Saudi Arabia and Israel has been on the cards for a very, very long time. And while we see what is playing out in Israel, we see what is happening out in the West Bank, we've seen massacres and genocides, and we've seen so much taking place within Israel and the Palestinians. But behind the scenes, all this talk about normalizing ties with Israel, and the big one, and this would be major for a country like Israel, is to normalize ties with a country like Saudi Arabia.
Oh, yes, it's a big one. And we'll wait for direction, of course, from various countries in this regard, because Saudi plays a very important role. And in the past, there's been a reluctance in terms of criticizing Saudi Arabia because of its strategic importance, particularly in Islamic history and also in Islam in general. So there's been that reluctance from people to criticize Saudi Arabia. But as you correctly say, while all of these atrocities are taking place and the right wing in Israel is killing Palestinians in Palestine 48 and in some of the occupied territories, you have this discussion taking place. And they have to, of course, be condemned. But as I've said, the reluctance is that, people don't want to risk their opportunities of traveling to Saudi Arabia for their religious rights. And as a result, I don't expect much, by the way, from the Muslim leadership in condemnation of Saudi Arabia, because many of them prioritize their religion to any cause. And I think this is going to be a great test for the Palestinians, whereas it was easy for us to continue criticizing others who have normalized relations with Saudi, including Morocco, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, etc. I just wonder what's going to happen this time around when Saudi Arabia decides to join the fray. I lost the sound. Can't hear you, lost the sound.
Media. لا تقل لوحدي أو كيف السبيل. Humanity sets the agenda.
There's no smell that takes me back to the comfort of my childhood than the smell of black seed oil being applied by my nanny. Now I'm using Tib black seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like Tib black seed. You can find Tib black seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
Conveniently located along the banks of the Crocodile River bordering the Kruger National Park, as a guest at Buckler's Africa Lodge, one can enjoy an amazing sunrise or sunset on our spacious deck area while you catch a glimpse of some wildlife sightings along the Crocodile River. The sounds of the African savannah will greet you whilst you enjoy your morning coffee. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Buckler's Africa Lodge is ideally situated only 6 kilometers from the Crocodile Bridge Gate in the Kruger National Park. Catering for all travelers with variety, we have 4 types of the finest rooms: superior rooms, deluxe suites, and 2-bedroomed family units. Each room is equipped with the finest amenities to make your stay unforgettable. Guests can choose between the self-catering option or book their accommodation with breakfast and dinner included. Buckler's Africa Lodge is your ideal location for the ultimate Kruger getaway experience. We specialize in exhilarating and educational game drives in Kruger, tailor-made to suit your family. Inquire about our various accommodation offerings and other activities. Visit www.tingana.co.za for more information. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Experience the pulse of Africa with us. When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
Ah, the kitchen, the heart of the home, where memories are made and celebrated. Our go-to place for those freshly stacked pancakes early in the morning or for that late-night snack munchies. We are in there together, cooking, eating, and celebrating life together. Let's keep the kitchen a place that is shared by everyone, where we build stronger bonds and grow together. Sunfoil, now we cooking. Visit nowwecooking.co.za for recipes that everyone can help make.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
The time is just gone 8:14, and we must apologize. There was a bit of a break in communication as we were talking with Ibrahim Thembisa Fakude on Saudi Arabia and the United States reaching some sort of an agreement on a road to restoring the kingdom's relationship with Israel. And we're going across now to be joined once again by Ibrahim Thembisa Fakude. Ibrahim, assalamu alaikum once again, and we need to apologize for that break in communication. But just to continue and to look at the economic considerations. Now, we know MBS has been very, very ambitious and looking ahead at Vision 2030 as to where he wants to take Saudi Arabia. At the same time, Israel, obviously, they seem to be quite optimistic about normalizing ties with Saudi Arabia. There is talk about an economic corridor between to Europe with Saudi Arabia. So there are major issues from an economic perspective that have been playing out in the background that is one of the primary motivations behind this entire move of normalizing relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia.
No, that's true. But if that happens, it also goes on the face of the BDS campaign against Israel. So not only do you have countries and activists that are against the normalization of relations with Israel, but you've got an economic boycott of Israel. So anyone who seeks to promote and advance economic ties with Israel, you will be indirectly facilitating the continual oppression of the Palestinians. So there's no excuse nor any reason for Saudi Arabia to justify what they're about to do, because either way, you're still going to be facilitating the continuation of the oppression of the Palestinians. So this has to be condemned, and I think noises have to be made during this time in particular as they continue or try to facilitate that decision or the final signing of the arrangement between themselves and the Israelis, because Israel has shown not only barbarity but all evilness in terms of how they deal with the Palestinians and the bombing and deprivation of the Palestinians of the opportunities to work, travel, sometimes a cut of electricity, water, etc. I mean, we haven't seen anything like it on earth, and there is no excuse at all to normalize relations with this very brutal and evil regime of Israel.
Yes, but also the United States of America that has got a huge interest in what plays out between Saudi Arabia and Israel, and there are major economic concerns on the part of the United States of America and the U.S. pushing a certain agenda, pushing a certain narrative. The whole question of oil being sold in dollars, so that to maintain the dollar as the dominant currency around the world. There are many other issues that obviously playing out. The supremacy of the dollar is just one, but again, looking at the ties between the United States, Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Arabia massive arms sales to this country, so of huge benefit to the US. Now, all of this playing out, but at the same time, one cannot ignore the Palestinian question, because although Israel says that the issue of Palestine should not come into play and it shouldn't cause any problem in forming any ties with Saudi Arabia, Ibrahim.
Well, yes, that's very true. And I'm afraid, the Palestinians will be once again left to fend themselves in this regard. I mean, we saw what the United Arab Emirates did. I'm not quite sure whether people just don't know that Dubai, for example, is part of the UAE. There hasn't been any condemnation. Instead, we see things and business as usual between countries and South Africans in particular, and Dubai. Dubai is part of the UAE. And I think what's going to happen this time around, again, because of the interest that many of the South Africans have in Saudi Arabia, particularly when it comes to Hajj and Umrah, this is again going to be swept under the carpet so that people can continue. So this is a great test for us as South African in terms of our solidarity, notwithstanding the economic benefits that Saudi Arabia and Israel will enjoy as a result of this. But I don't think any of us and activists and Muslims can gladly accept the current talks, given that Israel, not long ago, they went into Jenin camp, it's a very small piece of land inside Jenin city, and bombed the lights out of the Palestinians, wanton destruction of infrastructure, uprooting the roads and crashing the cars that were parked on the side, killing whoever comes across or come across their way. So this is a regime that's hell-bent on evil and continuing of the oppression of the Palestinians. And any discussion that's got to do with normalization, particularly on the countries of size of Saudi Arabia and importance, strategic importance of Saudi Arabia, it's going to be very disappointing. But I mean, one doesn't expect anything much, anything constructive from Saudi Arabia. I mean, they try very hard to liberalize that country, notwithstanding that most of the institutions and platforms that are in that country belong to the Ummah. But we have one Mohammed bin Salman who feels that is his own country and he can do as he pleases. He's now going to be coming up with a new city called Al-Ain, whatever it is, a red bikini beach in the land of a holy land of Saudi Arabia. So he's doing as he pleases, and I think his popularity within the young people gives him that confidence. But at the same time, in this regard, I think it's up to the international community to continue putting pressure.
Yes, and without doubt, when we look at Joe Biden, for instance, I mean, obviously he's a pro-Israel president, as most of the all the U.S. presidents are, and with a strong Jewish lobby or Zionist lobby out in the United States of America. The U.S. has turned a blind eye to the aggression in Palestine for a long time. Even Saudi Arabia, to a large extent, has turned a blind eye as well. And at the end of the day, the fact that Saudi Arabia holding a Muslim world to ransom because they are in control, they are in charge of the Holy Lands, should not actually come into play. The key issue here at the end of the day is the solidarity with the people of Palestine, but that solidarity needs to be shown in more ways than one. There needs to be concrete action, Ibrahim.
Oh, yes, we need to continue putting pressure, and I think we expect that many people will start writing about this as it's about to happen. So you put pressure before it happens, because once it's signed, it's going to be very difficult. But I don't think Mohammed bin Salman is going to be stopped by anyone in this regard. He's going to continue doing as he pleases. And the Palestinians will be once again left to them to fend for themselves. All the Arab countries seem, by the way, if Saudi Arabia does sign this, we are likely, therefore, to have all other countries following suit, and which will mean, therefore, that the Palestinians will be by themselves. And it will be a great test for all those who claim to support the Palestinians to come up in support of the Palestinians this time around, notwithstanding that they might just be compromising and sacrificing their chances of traveling for Umrah and Hajj.
Yes, I think, when we're looking at a major development like this, what is absolutely critical is to engage with the rest of the Muslim world. Now, we've got forums like the OIC, we've got forums like the Arab League, and it will be quite interesting to see, whether the whole question of normalizing ties with Israel, not only between Saudi Arabia, but the rest of the Muslim world, these are matters, these are important, critical matters that need to be up for discussion at these forums, and obviously to understand what the rest of the Muslim world thinks before a decision of this nature is made.
Yeah, but these platforms are also compromised, and if we are to expect any constructive from the OIC or the Arab League, I think by the time they make any, we know what decision they're going to make, of course. I mean, these are the people who are working with Bashar al-Assad now. They've accepted and welcomed him back into the fold. These are the people who are happy with the Russians, the Wagner group operating in Syria and in Libya. These are the same people who have said no word of condemnation or support of the Palestinian liberation over the past at least couple of months. So there's nothing much really to be expected from the Arab League. I mean, the Arab League sits comfortably in Egypt, which is the same country that is currently has in their jails thousands of activists, journalists, and others. So we don't expect much to happen from the Arab League. They failed to condemn nor intervene in any of the current political challenges that are facing the people of Arab world. The OIC, you hardly hear of them at all. Nor have we heard of them publicly condemning what has been happening in Jenin, for example, which required, and one expected that the OIC and the Arab League would have made noises about what happened in Jenin or continues to happen in Palestine, but they're not saying anything. And the Palestinians themselves have got no hope, no confidence in these platforms that we are talking about. Instead, they've started their own initiatives of pushing back the oppression in Palestine. So I don't think we should even have a discussion about these two organizations, because really they're irrelevant when it comes to proper, real Islamic issues. Number one, they don't even represent Muslims, actually. They represent themselves. The Arab League does not represent Muslim countries, it represents the Arab countries. And it has played over the years a very destructive and delaying tactics in terms of the Palestinian struggle. So it's a very sad state of affairs for the Palestinians. And of course, one knows for sure that Mohammed bin Salman would have gone and pacified them and lobbied them before starting these negotiations. So chances are they're going to be nodding to whatever it is that it decides on, because number one, it sponsors them, and number two, is one of the major members of this organization. If Saudi Arabia pulls out of the OIC or the Arab League, these two organizations will collapse, because they depend on Saudi Arabia and the alliances of Saudi Arabia within the Arab world in terms of their financial support.
Yes, and also just looking at some of the other players in the background and those that really matter. I'm looking at, for instance, Turkey. At one point in time, there was a lot of hope as far as Turkey and Erdogan was concerned as well. But we know that there is a relationship between Israel and Turkey at this point in time. When one looks at, for example, Iran. Now, Iran has expressed its concern about normalization of ties between these countries, but also looking at what has been playing out in Pakistan, where Imran Khan at one point in time refused point blank to normalize relations with Israel, and we know what has happened to him now. He's now being imprisoned. He's obviously out of the political landscape of Pakistan at this point in time. Now, these are countries, these are huge, these are massive countries that also matter at the end of the day, Brian.
Oh, yes, it also matters what their views are going to be. And Turkey in particular, Turkey has issued some strong statements regarding Israel and the oppression of the Palestinians, and we hope that they'll continue doing so. But in terms of their relationship with Saudi Arabia, one wonders what will happen. I mean, they've since handed back the file of the killers of Jamal Khashoggi, for example, and that has led to a renewed relationship between President Tayyip Erdogan and Prince or Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. So all of these developments makes one believe that whatever decision is Saudi Arabia going to be taking on Israel is going to be supported. Iran itself has renewed a relationship with Saudi Arabia. We know now that Ibrahim Raisi and Mohammed bin Salman have been speaking. They're both looking at joining BRICS. So it's all in all, it's bad news for the Palestinians. They'll have to fend for themselves because outside the Iranians, who are also desperate and at the moment pressed hard in terms of sanctions, etc. They can't continue having a lone voice, and I think you are likely to have the Israelis pushing the Saudis at some point to put pressure on Iran to kind of speak down on their rhetoric in terms of the existence of Israel, etc. So it's bad times ahead, and I think to summarize the only country that or two countries that probably will be standing with the Palestinians after all has been said and done is going to be Turkey and Iran.
Well, obviously, these are interesting times, and we definitely will follow developments. And as always, your views most welcome right here on Asala Media. We thank you once again, my brother, for unpacking what you have and for being with us right here on News and Views on Asala Media this morning. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ibrahim Thembisa Fakude with us this morning, Senior Research Fellow and Director at Afrasid. And we are going to definitely follow these developments and once again, of huge concern with regard to the Palestinians to fend for themselves, left out in the wilderness, while all the brutality, while all the aggression and oppression continues against this nation. The time is just gone, 8:28. We're going to go for a break. We come back. We will be joined by Dr. Fozia Siddiqui.